In 25 BCE, the Roman Empire, at the height of its power, was forced to negotiate peace with an African queen. Not with a king, not with an empire equal in size, but with a warrior queen from the Kingdom of Kush. Rome had conquered Egypt. It had crushed Carthage. It ruled the Mediterranean. But in Nubia, south of Egypt, it met resistance it did not expect. Her name was Amanirenas, and she did something almost no one else in the ancient world accomplished. She fought Rome and survived. To understand this story, we have to begin in 30 BCE. That was the year Cleopatra VII died, and Egypt fell to Augustus, then known as Octavian. With Egypt annexed, Rome now controlled the Nile north of Nubia. To the south lay the Kingdom of Kush, centered at Meroë, in what is today Sudan. Kush was not a minor state. It had once conquered Egypt during the 25th dynasty, centuries earlier. It had its own writing system, pyramids, temples, and army. And uniquely, Kush was often ruled by powerful women known as Kandakes, a royal title,
Kandake.
not a personal name. One of those Kandakes was Amanirenas. She ruled alongside King Teretekis in the late 1st century BCE. After his death, she governed as queen mother and regent for her son. Rome likely assumed Kush would submit quietly. It did not. In 25 BCE, while the Roman governor of Egypt, Gaius Petronius, was campaigning elsewhere, Kushite forces advanced north. According to the Greek geographer Strabo, writing decades later, Kushite troops attacked Roman-held cities in southern Egypt, including Syene, Elephantine, and Philae. They destroyed statues of Augustus. This was not random violence, it was a political message. Rome had crossed into Kushite influence. Amanirenas responded with force. Strabo reports that the Kushite army captured Roman prisoners and carried off spoils. One famous archaeological discovery supports this: a bronze head of Augustus, buried beneath temple steps at Meroë, likely placed there symbolically so that worshippers would tread on Rome's emperor. Rome retaliated swiftly. Petronius marched south with Roman legions, driving Kushite forces back and capturing the city of Napata, an important religious center. Napata was destroyed. To most states facing Rome, this would have been the end, but not to Amanirenas. Strabo describes the Kandake as a masculine woman who had lost one eye in battle. This is likely Amanirenas. Though Roman sources are biased and sparse, archaeological and inscriptional evidence from Kush confirms continued resistance. Instead of collapsing,
Warriors,
Kush
rise and claim
regrouped.
victory! For the Queen!
Amanirenas withdrew deeper into her territory. Petronius advanced, but did not permanently occupy Kushite lands. Maintaining control so far south along the Nile was costly. The geography itself was a weapon. Deserts, cataracts in the Nile, and extended supply lines made Roman campaigns difficult. Kushite forces knew the terrain. Rome did not. This was not a massive empire defeating Rome. It was a regional power using strategy, mobility, and geography to resist imperial expansion. Like a smaller state today leveraging terrain against a superpower, Kush forced Rome into a war it did not want to prolong. After further clashes, Petronius fortified positions in northern Nubia, but did not attempt total conquest. Then something remarkable happened. Instead of endless war, negotiations began. Around 21 to 20 BCE, Kushite envoys met Augustus at Samos, where he was wintering. This detail is recorded by Strabo. The result? A peace treaty, but not one imposed entirely by Rome. The terms were unusually favourable to Kush. Rome withdrew its southern border northward to Maharaka. Kush was not required to pay tribute. Prisoners were returned. For Rome, which routinely demanded tribute and imposed harsh settlements, this was extraordinary. The Kingdom of Kush retained its independence. Amanirenas had not conquered Rome. But she had achieved something arguably more impressive. She forced Rome to compromise. Let's put this into perspective. Rome defeated Carthage after 3 brutal wars. It crushed revolts in Gaul and Judea. It absorbed Egypt, Syria, and vast portions of Europe. But in Nubia, Rome settled for peace. Why? Because conquest was not worth the cost. Amanirenas made resistance expensive. She did not need to destroy Rome. She only needed to make occupation unsustainable. This is strategy at its highest level. The kingdom she defended. Kush was not a tribal rebellion. It was a sophisticated African civilization. Centered at Meroë, the kingdom controlled trade routes linking sub-Saharan Africa to the Mediterranean. It produced iron, gold, and luxury goods. Its rulers were buried in pyramids that still stand today. And unlike Rome, Kush frequently elevated women to supreme power. The title Kandake appears repeatedly in inscriptions. Queens such as Amanirenas and Amanitore also ruled in their own right. Amanirenas was not an anomaly. She was part of a political system that recognized female authority as legitimate. In a world dominated by patriarchal empires, Kush institutionalized women's rule. Much of what we know about this war comes from Roman writers. Kushite records are limited. Rome wrote the history. And Rome framed the conflict as a frontier disturbance, not a defeat. But the treaty speaks for itself. Rome did not annex Kush. Rome did not demand tribute. Rome adjusted its border. For nearly 3 centuries after this treaty, Kush remained independent. That is not a minor footnote. That is geopolitical success. History remembers emperors. It remembers legions. It remembers conquests. It rarely remembers the smaller powers that resisted successfully. Amanirenas did not build an empire stretching across continents. She did something harder. She protected the one she had. In the end, Rome, the most powerful military force of the ancient world, chose peace over conquest. Not because Rome was weak, but because Kush refused to break. The irony is powerful. One of the few states to fight Rome and remain independent was ruled by a woman. Not by accident, not by legend, but by leadership. Amanirenas did not defeat Rome in the way we imagine victory. She defeated Rome's ambition. And sometimes, in history, that is enough.